everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Katie, and today I'm doing my October reading wrap-up. This month was a lot better than I thought it was going. The first half of the month, I think I only finished like 5 books, and I was like, this is going to be like the slowest reading month I've ever had. And then, I don't know, I must have gotten a second wind or something, but we ended up finishing 19 books this month. So that's fantastic. I honestly did not think it was going to go that well, but yes. And I also misplaced a book. I have no idea where it went, so I was like, I know I have a copy, like I reviewed it, like where'd it go? So if you see it on my shelves, let me know, but I couldn't find it. Anyways, so yes, 19 books. I finished only one kind of comic book graphic novel. I finished one regular mainstream romance fiction, and then the rest are Christian fiction. So Christian fiction really just, took the majority, and that's probably because I'm trying to read as much as I can before a book event that I'm going to. So, and there's also a lot of review books that I had to get to, so that's probably why. But it's usually like, 70-30 or 40-60 usually between mainstream fiction and Christian fiction, but this month, it was a lot of Christian fiction, and that is okay, because I found quite a few really great books, which I did actually forget to rate a couple, but I know the rating of those. I'm like, why did I forget to rate those in my reading journal? But anyways, so I'm really excited to share. I have about half the books in physical format, so I want to say thank you to the publishers who sent me some of these books. I already reviewed them, but thank you again for sending them to me, because all my thoughts are my own. So you get all my thoughts. All my thoughts, and yes, so good or bad. I forgot to tell you like how many star ratings I had. I had nothing under 3 stars, which is fantastic for a 19 book month. That's fantastic. So I had 3 stars, 9 4 stars, 5 5 stars, and 2 6 stars. So anyway, the first one was Big Nate, Remain Calm. I don't remember what number this is. This is like number 20 or 30 something in the series. I don't know. But I just enjoy these as a relaxing read. I gave it 4 stars. They're not quite 5 stars, but they're just kind of easy reads about, I think he's a 6th grader or an 8th grader. I can't remember which one. But it's just all about his adventures through school and, hating on his teachers and doing, doodling in class instead of, not paying attention. So he's not the greatest role model, but he is funny. So I just enjoy those as a relaxing read. Then the only mainstream fiction I read was Take a Chance by Shelley Shepherd Gray. And I think this is mainstream fiction, but it could be Christian fiction, but I don't really know. It's kind of like in that middle of the road thing, and I gave it 3 stars. It was just okay to me. So this one, we're following a man who he has custody of his brother, and his brother's in high school, and he's, I think, like late 20s or something, but he decides to move him and his brother away from his dad. Like, his dad has been pretty much non-existent in their lives since their mother passed away, and even before then. So he decides to move them so he could have a better education in like I don't know if it's a private school or something, but he decides to move. And so he ends up meeting his brother's teacher, and there's a little bit of a romance. So the romance was okay, and I'll tell you why I honestly don't think it's a Christian fiction book. There wasn't really a lot of faith element in it, and a lot of Christian fiction honestly doesn't. If you want my honest opinion, a lot of it really doesn't have any faith content, or very little. But so there was mention of church like once or twice, but this probably isn't a series I'm going to continue, as there was at least 2 or 3 instances of swearing in the book, and that was like, a number one, like, I don't think Christian fiction would have that. And then also, there was no love scenes in it, but it was talked about, and like, like the teacher was like okay with making love before marriage. And I was like, that's not really a Christian value. So I'm like, I'm guessing it wasn't a Christian fiction book. And so yes, I honestly also thought it was kind of just more slow. I felt like it was definitely a romance heavy set book, and I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't feel like there was too much plot for me to enjoy. There was a little bit of teenage drama where the brother's girl that he likes in school, there was bullying going on in there, when somebody took a picture of her in the locker room and kind of put it around the school. So, and that also like kind of ticked me off a little bit because like the way the school handled that I felt wasn't that great either. So yeah, so that wasn't a great choice. So 2.5, 3 stars at the most for this book. It just wasn't a favorite for me personally. All right, on to the rest of the books, which are all Christian fiction. I read one love-inspired suspense book this month, and that was Alaskan Avalanche Escape by Darlene L. Turner. And I gave this one 3 stars. It was pretty good, and opposite from the last book, it was just really fast-paced for me. And normally I like a fast-paced book, but I just felt like some love-inspired books, not all, but some of them just, because they're a little bit shorter, I just feel like they put a lot of action and a lot of plot in like a smaller space compared to like regular published books. So I just felt like there was action upon action upon action and not really a breather break. So that's why I didn't really get a higher rating than 3 stars, but it was pretty good for the most part. But I did guess like right from the get-go, I knew what was going on. I mean, not exactly what was going on. Like I didn't guess like the reason behind it, but I guessed the bad guy, like right off the bat. I knew immediately. I'm like, that's what happened. And I'm like, oh yeah, I was right. I was like, it was very easy for me to guess. You know, if you read it, let me know if you didn't guess it right away, but I did. But it's set in Alaska, and it's about it's about a rescue team which goes to rescue climbers and, you know, mountain hikers or whatever in Alaska. And so one time there's an avalanche, and the main character, her boss, goes over a cliff, and she knows instantly that he's gone. And so she's trying to figure out, okay, what happened? Was it a natural accident or was it something more? And so it was interesting, but as I said, it was just a lot of action in one book. So I just needed a little bit of break in between. But I did enjoy it, but I would have liked to have been a little bit more surprised by the reveal than I was. So, which is unfortunate. But, you know, that just means my brain's working better now because I'm doing better at guessing who did it really quickly now. All right, so the next one I read, I have a physical copy. I buddy read Blood Secrets by Morgan L. Bussey with my lovely friend Chrissy's Purple Library. She has a channel. Make sure to check it out. I will link it down below. But we buddy read the second book in the Sky World series, and we both enjoyed it. Morgan L. Bussey is one of our favorites, and I think we gave it about the same rating, 3.5 stars. It was good. It was good. I don't honestly know why I rated it so low, because I did enjoy the premise. I did enjoy the characters. I just think I would have liked a little bit more character development and also a little bit more background story on how the Mist, which plays like a main character in this book, how the Mist really came to be. Like I wanted a little bit more of back history to it, and that's kind of why I think I gave it a little bit of a lower rating. But I did still really enjoy this series as a whole. But then these books were following some mysterious mist, and everybody lives above the mist because it's very dangerous to live in the mist, and you kind of become zombies if the mist touches you. And so they have these scavengers that go into the mist. They have breathing, helmets and stuff to protect them in order to scavenge for stuff that they're paid to scavenge for. Well, the girl who is a scavenger, she ends up meeting this guy who is on the hunt for something in the mist. And so they both go together to try to find it. And so they're trying to discover, if there is a cure, can they find a cure before it's too late for pretty much all society, because the mist keeps moving. And I did really enjoy the premise, really liked it. So yes, but I did give it about 3, maybe 3.5 stars. So was the first one. Okay, then the next one that I read was Barbara M. Britton's Providence, and I actually rated it 4.5 stars, not 4 stars. I actually have to change that in my reading journal. Hopefully I did that in my bookshelf. I probably didn't if I'm wrong. Let's see. Oh no, I did rate it 4.5 stars, so I just forgot to do it in my wrap up. But I did remember really enjoying this one. So in this one we're following Hannah and Gilead. And Hannah is the daughter of of a priest or something, and Jesus actually, or is it a prophet? No, prophet, one of Jesus's prophets comes to their town or village, and he is healing people left and right in Jesus's name. And so Hannah's father, he's like, you need to go and get healed. So he kind of shoves and pushes her. And she's like, you know, I want that, you know? And so she does, but she ends up not being healed. And the prophet says, not yet. And so her father pretty much is like, you know, you're worthless to me. I can't marry you off, because, you know, she has pretty much, you know, it was kind of interesting. Like she couldn't smell. I don't think she was actually disfigured, but like she couldn't smell anything. She couldn't taste anything. So it was kind of like, I think, more of uh, an inner health issue that she had. And so her father was like, you know, he wanted to kind of marry her off. So she's trying to figure out who he can marry her off to. And she has this wonderful friend, Gilead, who she really, really likes. And so she really wants to just run off and try to find the prophet again. And so she's like, listen, Gilead, I gotta go. And he's like, I'll go with you. But on the way there, they end up getting captured by a marauder group. And so they're split off. Gilead is pretty much, you know, thrown into a arena, gladiator arena, and she is sent to be a slave to I think he's like kind of like the captain of the guard or like the captain of the army, but she's sent to his tent because he, I believe, has leprosy. And I really didn't get that part of the story, only because like he had leprosy. So he was separate from the rest of the people and stuff, of course, because it was unclean back then. And she goes into his tent though, and it's like there was no like explanation of like, well, she had to be separate too because now she's unclean because she was with him. So I don't remember there being an exclamation or explanation of her being separated from the rest, you know, after she left his tent. I'm like, I think that would be wrong because she would have to be separated too, just in case she caught it from him. So that was the only part I was like, I don't know if that's exactly accurate to biblical times. But the rest of the story I really did enjoy. I loved her journey and how, you know, the captain of the guard protected her from his men harming her. And he was like, listen, I'm going to send you to my wife to become her maid. And again, well, she's unclean, but she ends up working for his wife. And so it's their journey of faith. And, you know, Hannah says, like, I know someone who can heal your husband. Let's go on the journey and try to find him. So it was a really interesting story. I really did enjoy it. There wasn't a whole lot of romance. So if you're not a huge romance person, there wasn't really a lot of romance in this story. But I did really enjoy it. And I did enjoy the faith journey in it. Next, I read a backlist title by Melanie Dickerson because I'm trying to go through backlists of favorite authors. So I read Magnolia Summer by Melanie Dickerson. And technically it says like book 1 on Goodreads of a series, but I'm like, it was written back in 2017. So I am not exactly sure if there's ever going to be a second book, or maybe it was mismarked or something. But I did really enjoy this one. It's about a girl who, I think she has like this big career. She wants to be, I think, like a fashion designer or something. But then her mother is doing really badly. Her father passed away and her mother is pretty much going a little crazy, and literally. And so she's not taking care of her children. And so the oldest daughter has to come home, and she's like, I don't want to come home. I have a life in the city. I don't want to leave it. But she does decide to go home just for a little while to make sure everything is okay and make sure her mom and the kids are taken care of. Well, she ends up running into the doctor of the town, who I love the doctor. I liked his story. But she's adamant that she's not going to have a romance because obviously she's not staying. She's going back to the city. So I really liked their dynamic, and they headbutted, but like I felt both characters did a really good job of like not compromising their wishes, but like bringing both of their wishes together in a really great way. So I really like that. And there's also a little bit of a nod to Zorro in the story. So I do love a good Zorro story. So I was very happy to see that. But yes, I did really enjoy that one, and I gave that one 4 stars. Next, I read This Dreamer by Sarah Watterson, and I really enjoyed this. It's going to be a series. I don't know when the next book is going to come out, but this one is kind of in the viewpoint of a guardian angel. So it was really interesting. It's a fantasy retelling of Joseph. And so Joseph is actually a boy who has the gift of dreams. And all of these, not all the kids, but some of the kids in this city have gifts that were given by God. And his is a dreamer. And he's like, that's not a gift. Like, what kind of gift is a dreamer? I don't have strength. I don't have, other things. And I love that that the author actually made all the gifts that the kids had. They are all gifts that are found in the Bible, which I loved. I love that. I thought that was great. So he has the gift of dreamer, and he's like, I'm not important. I'm nothing, pretty much. And so there's the guardian angels in heaven, and one goes down to earth because he has a message for the guardian that's taking care of the kids. And so the other guardian, which is a girl, she decides to go with him, and she kind of has more of a human mentality versus like a guardian angel mentality. So she's trying to figure out her placement and where she belongs, because she's not a guardian yet. She hasn't quite made that status. And so she's breaking rules by going to Earth. And so she decides to go with the other guardian. And what follows is a lot of mystery going on around Joseph, of course, although his name's not Joseph, I can't remember right now. But there's different things that follow the story of Joseph, how he's kidnapped and how he has, a bigger destiny that God has for him. And I just really enjoyed the story, love the plot line, and definitely it's a good versus evil battle in the story, and I really like that. So really, really good, and I can't wait to check out the second book. And I believe that this book was a Christie Award winner, so that's really cool. So to read that, but I really did enjoy it. So I gave that one 4 stars. Then the next one I read was Justice by Emily Conrad. This was 4 stars as well. And this one was a contemporary story. I don't think it was historical fiction. I'm pretty sure it's modern time. It could have felt, though, that it was like, it could have been set between the 60s and the 80s if you wanted to, but I think it was more contemporary. Anyways, so this guy has been in love with this girl, like, since the beginning of time. And she has seen her mother's relationships going from bad to worse, pretty much. And she's like, I don't want to ever get married. Like, I don't plan on ever getting married. And so, he's just waiting for her, because he's like, I'm never going to find anybody else. I know that this girl is right for me. Well, she goes off to some kind of convention for her work and stuff. Well, she comes home pregnant. And he's like, what's going on? She's not married. He's not telling her. And I'm going to do a spoiler here, because I don't normally do spoilers, but this is a trigger warning as well. But so trigger warning, spoiler alert right here. She is unfortunately molested when she's away. And so she comes back pregnant. And he actually did not know that. She didn't tell him. He actually got a dream from the Lord, and he actually saw what happened to her that night. And it was so heartbreaking. And it's just both their journeys of healing and trusting again, and trusting in God's plan, and and the drama of the church and the community, saying that he's the dad, or they're not married and stuff like that. So it's kind of a trust of faith, and a trust rather in God than in people, that God has you in his hands, not the community, not the church. So it was a really, really emotional story, and I did really enjoy it. So it was really good. All right, now we're getting into most of the books that I have physically. Not all of them, but most. So I did get to Jamie Jo Wright's newest book, which I was so excited about. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It could have been probably closer to 4.5, because I did really enjoy this one. And that was Specters in the Glass House. This is a dual timeline in 1921 and present day. And there are trigger warnings for, well, not trigger warnings. I would say like it's mental health rep. It's not really a trigger warning, because honestly, I feel like it's like maybe a fifth or a quarter of the book it's mentioned throughout. So, but mental health rep is throughout this book. But I just really enjoy this one. So this one, we're following a girl named Marion back in 1920s. And she's an heiress to a brewing baron's empire. Her father and mother had passed away, and their like townhouse or something is pretty much like, she can't live there anymore. I don't know if it's sold, or, they can't afford to keep it. So she decides to move to the summer house where her mother was there instead of the townhouse. So her mother had a big butterfly house there, and so she decides to move there. And her cousin all of a sudden arrives someday, and he's like, listen, we're family. I'm gonna stay a little while and take care of you. And he's not a very nice man. Let's just put it that way. And then a body is found in the glass house. Somebody supposedly possibly committed suicide, but was it really suicide? We don't know. But mysterious goings on in the butterfly house. There's mysterious figures that Marianne has been hearing and seeing, and she's trying to figure out, well, who is this strange girl that I keep seeing? And so that was really interesting. And then in the modern timeline, we're following Remy, and Remy is a research assistant who decides to help out, well, it gets hired to help out this author who's living at this house that has the butterfly house. And the author's trying to figure out some strange happenings about the butterfly butcher, who was a serial killer back then. And so she's tasked to help research that. And so there's also some mysterious things happening in this timeline that kind of tie in with the past timeline. So I think Jamie Jo Wright does an excellent job with really connecting both timelines. I think she's one of the best at weaving in storylines. So it was really good. Really enjoyed it. I also had a book review for that one too. And I got another backlist title off my shelf from Amanda Barrett. She is obviously becoming fastly one of my favorite authors for World War II fiction. I just love her so much. So I read The White Rose Resists. That's a hard title to pronounce. But I really love this one. So this is a novel of the German students who defied Hitler. And it was really good. I gave this one 4 stars. It would have been 5 stars, but I just felt like the first half of the book was a little bit more slow paced because we're following kind of the students, finding friendships, finding romance, and, their day-to-day lives. But then we get into the resistance part of the story because it's World War II. And I just really enjoyed the whole World War II aspect of it. And I just really enjoyed it. Oh, it got so emotional at the end. I had to text Amanda. I was like, Amanda, why'd you do this to me? I love when I can just text an author and tell them how much I love this story, or tell them, what did you do to me? But I just really love this one. As I said, all of Amanda Barrett's stories, I read 2 so far, and they were just both incredibly good stories. And I just loved the characters and the timeline and just the resistance story. So this is all about like the paper leaflets that the resistance did. It's that part of the resistance where they were handing out pamphlets and mailing them and taking trains to different cities so they could spread the news around saying, this isn't good what's happening in our country right now. So I really enjoyed it, and you should read it. You should read any of her books because they're really good. All right, next I finished 2 books in a series. So I finished a series. I'm so excited. So I don't have the second book in the series, but I do have the 3rd one. So I finished Hero Debut by Angela Ruth Strong, which was, I put down 4 stars, but I think it was 5 stars. No, it could have been 4 stars. So both of these were 4 stars. Hero Debut, and then Fiancé Finale by Angela Ruth Strong. And I love this series. I really do. I just think it's a fun series. It has more hard-hitting notes as well, but it also has a little bit of comedy relief as well, and fun parts. So I just really love the entire series. Hero Debut, we're all following different characters from the first book, so I really liked kind of the interconnecting characters. So you really should read these in order because characters from the first book are, gonna pop up in second and third books. So really love that. My Hero Debut is about a girl and a cop, and the girl's always getting into trouble apparently. And I just loved her. I loved her character so much. And then I love the cop. He was kind of like a rough and tumble type of cop, but I just really loved their romance, and I just thought it was funny and sweet. And then this one, Fiancé Finale, we're following Charlie and Nicole, and they had a relationship, but then he runs off pretty much on their wedding day to film a very important documentary, and she's never forgiven him for that. So this one's a second chance romance, and this one, in Hero Debut, I loved the couple, right from the get-go. This one, I wasn't a fan of the couple at first. I don't normally have a tough time with second chance romance, but this one I did a little bit. Because I kind of, didn't get why they broke up. Why was it so hard? Until the story got a little bit deeper into the story of the hows and the whys and, learning to trust God again. And this ending in Fiancé finale, one of my favorite endings. Oh my goodness. It was like a romance scene in a movie. It was so perfectly wrapped up in a nice little bow, and I was just like, yes, please. Like, I cried so hard in the end of I can't talk. Fiancé finale. It broke my heart. Loved it. Yes, so gotta read both of those. All right, then I read Carrie Taransky's newest book, which was A Token of Love, and I love this one. This was 5 stars for me. I already have a full book review on this one, but this one's about dual timelines, 1885 and present day, and it's both about a foundling hospital. And so back in 1885, this woman is reconnected with her sister, and her sister says, I have a daughter and I put her in a foundling hospital because I couldn't take care of her at the moment. Will you go back and try to get her? Well, she does, but come to find out, supposedly she died. Supposedly. But there's something more that's going on in the foundling hospital. And then we're following the path line in the present time, where there's the director of the foundling hospital historical building, and they're doing just some research and stuff, and they're discovering more stories that haven't been put to light since the past. So really enjoyed that one. There are trigger warnings in that one, though, for underage girls who are unfortunately put into prostitution, just as a warning. There's nothing described or anything, but yes, so it is in there. All right, next, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Shield of the Mighty by Connell and Cosette. That's a book I don't know where it went. So, yeah, I have no idea. But I love this one. I gave it 5 stars, and I just really loved it. It's about a woman who is a perfumer, and she meets this soldier of Saul's army. And this one doesn't have like any biblical characters other than mentioning Saul, pretty much. So she meets him, and she doesn't know he's Saul's soldier. So she's a widower, and she's kind of like flirting with the new soldier guy. And then all of a sudden she finds out that he's a soldier in Saul's army, and she wants nothing to do with him. She's like, I want nothing to do with Saul and his army. No way, no how. Well, he's tasked to find soldiers as well as find like merchants that might be able to help the kingdom of Saul. Well, he ends up kidnapping her. And so I loved their story. I loved the romance, and it was just a really great time. I have a whole book review, as I said, on it, so I'll link that down below. But I highly enjoyed that one. The romance was beautiful in it, and I loved the characters. Connell and Cosette, this might be like one of my favorite biblical fiction series. I just really loved, especially the second book. The second book was so good. All right, then I have the second and third books in the Alaskan Cyber Hunter series by Kimberly Woodhouse. Enjoyed both of these so much, both 5 stars. This series is one of my favorites romantic suspense books. I just really loved it. There's an underlining mystery throughout the entire series, so you really need to read them as a whole. But I really love these. So 8 Down is the second book, and 70 North is the third book. And it's just really good. It's all about, the cyber network in Alaska, and it's in different government branches that help out with cybercrime and stuff. And I just really enjoyed it. The attention to detail, because she knows somebody in like the cyber working area, which I think is so cool. And so we see that kind of like a first perspective thing. And I just really loved it. Very intense action. I will say trigger warnings though for substance abuse and yes, substance abuse. So is that right? Well, drug abuse. But I will say that that's mostly in the third book, not too much in the first and the second book, but more so in like the second and leading into the third. But I just enjoyed the series. High action, a little bit of romance. Really just enjoyed this series. This might be my favorite series of Kimberly Woodhouse, I will say. It was that good. All right, then we have 3 more books. I have Brave, which was again 5 stars, and I just really loved it. I actually just did a book review on this yesterday, so I'll link that down below. But this is a biblical fiction story on David and his wives. This one specifically on Ahinoam and Abigail, and mostly Ahinoam, and she's just a knife-wielding, adventurous girl who's the daughter of a metalsmith, and they kind of want to join David's rebels because they have to run away from home because people are going to attack their village again. And so she's like, well, okay, father, but I don't really want to join him. But I just loved her personality, and their romance was very sweet. And I just really loved Ahinoam's perspective of like telling how it is, and like even though David was the future king of Israel, she's like, you know, like I'm not gonna take a light on you, David. So I just really liked her for that reason. I just thought she was great. All right, then the last two books, which I don't have physical copies of. The first one is Some Like It Scott by Paperbacks. She kindly sent me a copy of this, so thank you very much. It was amazing and loved it. And it was 6 stars all the way. And no, it's not just because the main character's name is Katie and that she's tall and that she also does very silly puns, because I love puns. I love puns. I love puns. It's just me. But it was just so sweet and so fun. It's about a girl who is a travel blogger and vlogger, which is like my dream job. So it was just a great story about a girl who goes to Scotland, and she's gonna have like the historical experience in a castle, and she meets this very brooding Scotsman while she's there, and just the antics that she gets into, the klutziness of her character. I just loved her. She wasn't perfect, and she was just so much fun to hang out with. I'm like, I would be best friends with her, like 100%. You know, so I loved her character. And, you know, I told Paperbacks, I'm like, are you sure you didn't make her after me? Because she seems a lot like me. But it was just so much fun. And no, Pepper and I have not known each other that long for her to know that much about me. But it was just such a sweet romance. The romance was great. The characters were great. The setting was perfect because I love Scotland. So highly, highly recommend that book. All right, and then the last one that I read, which it was a tough choice between like Some Like It Scott and this one for the favorite of the month, so we're just gonna tie them together. The last one was Cris Cross by C.C. Warrens. Oh my goodness. I have never read a suspense book that put me in more suspense than this one. I am telling you, do not read this if you have to walk to your car in the middle of the night. Because I started reading this book during Silent Book Club, which is at a coffee shop, and it was dark out when I walked to my car. And right in the beginning of the book, she's being chased in the woods. And I'm like, so I'm very thankful that I parked right out front. But still, I was like, not a great, you know, book to read when you're walking in the dark. So but it was intense. It was suspenseful. I loved it. So I will say there is very slight mention of a trigger warning of physical abuse. In the book, it's very lightly mentioned, but it is there, and the main character deals with trauma because of that. So just as a warning. But oh man, this book was incredible. The faith content was great. The characters were amazing. I loved Holly Cross. She's not like a new favorite character. Please forgive me if there is an audio or video difference, because I had to switch phones because mine died right in the middle of talking about my favorite book of the month. But anyway, so Cris Cross. Loved it. I could not believe just how incredibly intense this book was. I just thought it was so great. And there are quite a few intense scenes and talks about torture and violence in it. So just beware going into that. It is a Christian fiction book, but there are very intense scenes in it. But I just honestly, I really like those grittier type of books. Like if I was gonna write like a thriller or, you know, romantic suspense, that would be the kind of type of book I would write. And what I liked about this one was there was literally no romance in it. Like none at all. So if you're not a romance fan, there wasn't. There might be going on forward, because there was 1 or 2 instances where I felt like there could be a romance between 2 characters. So, you know, there is probably going to be romance heading forward in the other books. And I just heard the author did like a video on her page, and there's going to be like upwards of 10 books in the series, which I think I'm like, wow, like how many storylines can you get for this poor girl? Because what she went through in the first book was enough for like seriously, she went through a lot. But I loved it. As I said, I really love that more gritty type of thriller, and I just really enjoyed it. So it's definitely at the top of like my all-time favorites already. It was just so good, and I loved it so much. And C.C. Warrens has no right to write a villain so good. Like, I hated him, but she wrote him so good to where, like, you really hated him. But, yes, I enjoyed that one immensely, and it was definitely at the top of my favorites of the month. And I'm so happy that I finally just bit the bullet and read it, because, like, I literally had that book on my list for, like, I don't know, at least the past year or 2. And I'm like, I'll get to it. Because I own the first book on my Kindle. And then, all of a sudden I saw a comment while she was going to be at the event I'm going to, and I'm like, let's just get it done because I need to read this book. And so happy I did. I mean, now, like, I don't have the time right now, but I really want to binge read the entire first 5 books that she has out because they're that amazing. And I'm like, I just really want to read them all. They're so good. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you've read any of these or if you plan on reading any of these now that I talked about them. I love to talk with you down in the comments. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video.